Let me record on the cloud. There we go. We are recording this meeting. So present at tonight's meeting are Ryan Fisher, Tim Seifert, Isaac Berumen, Alicia Vela, Angel Lopez, Angie Bolden, Bob Doyle, Esther Acosta, Jason Tamura, Jennifer Camacho, Jose Aguilera, and Patricia Solorio, and Rosalie Marquez, Tash Loag, and Yvonne Teniente. If I did not call your name, please let me know. Otherwise, we will proceed. Just making sure we've got everybody here. All right. Chairman Ryan Fisher, I do not see any members of the public.
Okay, good deal, thanks. You don't need me to, since we're recording now, we didn't catch the calling the meeting to order. We don't need to do that, do we? It's noted in the.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I noted it.
All right.
Okay, so moving on to agenda number 5, update on Block Grants Advisory Committee vacancy. So we have one vacancy currently open on the committee. That is Councilmember Waterfield's appointment, and we have been told that at this time, she is not appointing anyone. Also, as Bob Doyle shared last week at the City Council meeting, the City Council discussed the attendance of not just our committee, but the commissions and other committees that are part of the city. And it was a good, robust discussion. And basically, it was just going over what is expected of those who participate in these council-appointed committees and commissions. Our bylaws are going to, in essence, remain the same. 3 missed meetings, it equals a review of that committee members' participation on the board, on the Block Grants Advisory Committee. And our site visits count as 2 missed meetings, and our deliberations also count as 2 missed meetings. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Update on existing capital and public service activities. I will toss this over to Alicia.
So, and Rosie, I just wanted to add, I'm not able to screen share. It says it's disabled. So just FYI. So
let me change that. Give me a sec. Yes.
Just thinking about what you said about the 2 things for the site visits, that it counts twice. Why would someone who didn't go to the site visits do the deliberations? It doesn't seem like they should be involved in the deliberations if they don't go to the site visit. Does that make?
That makes sense. That is something that we can definitely bring up and add to the bylaws.
Can I
Just
pop in real quick? Because we don't go to all the site visits, so we all read the reports.
Correct, but if you miss your own assigned site visits, I think that's what Tim's referring to, right, Tim?
Yes. Yes.
So if you miss your site visits,
Why would you be involved in it?
then
Well, like I said, we don't all go to all of the site visits. So it would be like, I didn't go to X site visit in person, but I'm reading the report. So that person would have the same.
Site visits, Patricia. That I'm not talking about the other ones. I'm talking about our own visits. If you don't make your own visits, you probably shouldn't be allowed to be in the deliberations because you didn't have enough time to even go to your. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about reading anything, the other visits. I'm talking about your own responsibilities.
I agree with you on that part.
Okay, maybe it's me, but I'm just like, you're still reading reports. So you're gonna give the same input as you would on, you're gonna get the same information as everybody else is, regardless of whether you went to that site visit or not. But
But,
I'll
can
defer
I say,
to the consensus.
can I say one thing that sometimes if you go to a site visit, but you become ill and cannot go to that visit, and you can be excused, would that be correct? I mean, there's times that, one of us could be sick and can't make it. We went to a couple of the site visits, but we can't do the others for some reason. Is there a stipulation or consequences for missing part of your site visits?
Currently, there's nothing in the bylaws that is that detailed. The only thing that is adopted is that if you miss, which is something that the committee adopted a couple years ago, that if you miss a site visit, if you miss your site visits, it's considered two absences. And if you miss deliberations, it's also considered two absences. And the city council did clarify last week that whether it's excused or not excused, it's still considered an absence. This is something that we can, it's not agendized today, but we can definitely agendize it for the,
Okay,
maybe not for the next meeting, because the next meeting is actually deliberations. I don't know if we want to have this discussion at that setting, or if this is something we'll bring up for the following CDBG cycle, where we can have a discussion and see how the committee feels overall about adding additional parameters to what.
I agree, Rosie, just do it after we get done with this visit and deliberation. We can have a discussion on that more detailed.
We can add it to March's agenda.
Correct.
Yes, I was just thinking you added because if they can't make their site visit, maybe they could do it on Zoom. As she said before, a lot of us get sick. Like I know I've been sick for the last week or so. This is why I'm in bed now. So I had a site, which I haven't had a site visit yet, But right now, the site visit you guys doing with me that I'm going to be doing is on Zoom. So if they can't make the in person, maybe they could go on Zoom and do the site visit.
I think, Rosie, I think this year all our site visits is going to be Zoomed, right? Because of the policy that came out.
Yes.
Well, yeah, no, yes, well, no. Most of them, we did leave it up to the agency and the committee members as to whether they wanted to continue it as in person or change it to virtually. We did have additional agencies request that we move it to a virtual setting. Probably about 90% of all of our site visits are currently virtual. And actually, I'm glad you brought it up because we were going to bring that up to you tonight, and we can move it up a little bit since we're discussing it already. We can move it up from the number 7 part of the agenda, which is we were going to ask you if you wanted to just, being that the majority of the site visits are already virtual, if we should just go ahead and move those last few in-person meetings to a virtual setting. And if you don't want to answer now, if you want to think about it and let us know tomorrow, that's fine. But we did want to pose that question to you.
I'm all for 100% site visits.
For Angie, she's on my team, and we have one that's going to be in person, and all the rest of them are Zoom. And with Angie's request being ill, that why can't we have that one Zoom? Everything is Zoom for team 4. I guess that's who I am, team 4. Oh,
Sure,
team
we can
5. I'm
definitely
sorry.
do that.
Team 5. The team 5 could be all Zoom. we have one that's in person, but because of Angie being sick, let's do all of us in team 5 Zoom. Is that okay with you, Angie?
Yes, it is, because
Yeah.
what I've been
I'm
through
in
last week, so I don't want to take a chance, and I'm in bed now, you know.
Okay.
I'm in team 4. I also would like to Zoom 100% site visits.
Rosie, it's Esther.
Hi,
Can you hear me,
Esther.
Rosie? Hi.
Yes,
Okay,
we
I
can hear
prefer
you.
Zoom. I prefer Zoom, but the thing is, my first site visit, I have to miss. I have a doctor's appointment. So talking about all this is because now wait, should I be participate in the deliberation? Or I
Yes,
didn't give my
yes, you
input.
can. We won't discuss we won't discuss the attendance of a site visit and how that affects deliberations until the March meeting, and that won't take effect until the following year. So for now, we're just going to operate under the current bylaws.
And then if you all don't mind, if you guys can just email maybe to you, Rosie, what your preference is, if you, or basically if you prefer to have the meetings that we're going to be in person, to email city staff. And if not, then consider it that if you're not emailing it, then you're for everything on Zoom. That way, that should kind of trim down the number of emails you get, and that should pretty much get us all on the same page.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to update on existing capital and public service activities. And I gave you co-host powers, Alicia. But Alicia also put the capital project month-to-month checklist in the chat. If it's easier for you to see it that way.
Do you see it here on the screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we have chapel, the city's recreation and parks department project from fiscal year 2020-21. So this one, the city's been unable to move forward with the tentative bid that they had with Newton Construction because another contractor is contesting the bid award. It will be presented to City Council on February 15th, and the city will proceed as directed by council at that time. For the ADA pedestrian safety and accessibility improvement project, call for bids took place on December 21st, and the bid opening is set for the 18th of January. Then the winning bid will be awarded at the city council meeting on February 15th. And construction is still anticipated to begin in March or April. There's also the City Santa Maria Recreation and Parks Department Presker Park project. Whoops. And that one, the plans were submitted to the county as Presker Park was previously a landfill and it requires extra environmental steps. So notes were made on the plan. And Rec and Parks is currently working that out with the county and their landscape architect to ensure that the project's not digging into the previous landfill. The utilities department wharf hydrant replacement. This project will be going out to bid following the closing bids for the ADA project. Then there's capsule. Since the last update, one project has been completed and another is underway. The 3 projects that were pending review last month are still pending assessment with capsule. The capsule team's been recently impacted by COVID. So some of the clients are also requesting that the agency delay in coming to their homes. And Jim from Capsule stated that he thinks that this will just be a temporary delay and he doesn't think that the agency will have any issues with expending the contracted amount. with Communify. I had just put the timestamps of when I reached out to them, just because in the past we've had issues getting a response. So I did receive a response this morning from Kemba with Communify. She stated that 20 assessments are pending and 8 projects are currently under construction. And COVID has also recently affected their contractors, so the agency is working through that at the moment. Good Samaritan shelters, kitchen and dining room, overflow shelter rehab, the kitchen and dining hall floors have been completed, and as well as the restroom improvements. So that project's almost complete, and once it's fully complete, we'll get pictures and we'll share it with everyone. And public service updates. I just noted that invoices have been received. We really haven't had any issues with public service agencies submitting their invoices. We have a couple that haven't billed for anything, but I believe they plan to bill pretty soon. So I'm not too concerned about those agencies. So that's the update for January. Go to
we'll
next
proceed to
agenda.
number 6, CDBG-CB funding in response to COVID-19. So the update is the contracts are out, so work cannot begin until the contracts are executed. And we are also working on the environmental reports, which are required by HUD to complete before work can begin. Any questions on that? All right, we're going to move to number 7. Rolling along, CDBG process for fiscal year 2022-2023. Public services and capital project staff analysis. Let the good times roll. So Alicia and Tash really are the ones that look at everything that's submitted by the agencies first before it comes my way. And so they really go through it with the documentation that's provided, and they're very good and very thorough. So they went through and basically provided a staff analysis of every single applicant that has a history with CDBG, and then obviously the ones that don't have a history of CDBG we can't rate, but we did put them in and put new project or new agency. So I'll let them go through. They might just go through the ones that need the most improvement. But of course, if you have any questions along the way of any of these agencies, please feel free to ask. Right, this is the time to ask because you've got all 3 of us here. So I'll take it away, Alicia and Tash.
Okay, so the rating scale is just a meter on how we determine their score. And then we provided the application name, a performance rating, and then a reason why we gave them that rating. So if they got a 5, they typically submit their invoices and reports in a timely manner. Some of them might require follow-up, but they're usually responsive. So we just gave them a 5. So we'll go over just the ones that have like a 3 or lower, and all of the agencies should be aware of these issues because they're all reported in their monitoring letters. So, and we put like when the monitoring review took place and additional details. And then I added a note here that the monitoring review letters that are mentioned in the staff analysis are also available. They provide a little bit more detail. So if you want to get a little bit more info, you can go ahead and send an email to either Tosh or myself. So I'll let Tosh go ahead, and then I'll go ahead and chime in when needed. So first we'll go over Catholic Charities, the community services program. We gave them a 3.
Could I interrupt real quick?
Ryan,
Yeah,
Oh.
before we get into it. So I just want to remind committee members that, when it boils down to deliberations and we get into the really tough part of decision making and all things being equal between applicants, to remember this part especially, because these are the agencies that aren't performing, that aren't meeting the minimum requirements, and potentially in some cases leaving considerable amount of money on the table that could otherwise be given to agencies who do perform, or perhaps haven't even had the opportunity to get a grant from us. So I don't think this gets enough focus when it comes to deliberations. And I think since the city staff is doing so much work to put this together for us, I think this is very important for us and for them, because, low performance rating is essentially saying that it's making staff's job harder than it should be. If they're having to continually bother agencies that are requesting grant money, and there's never enough to go around, and we're always tight on the budget. So if everyone just can kind of remember and keep this in mind, especially newer members, this is something you can look at as an additional metric. But that's all I want to say, and I'll leave it to you and Tosh. Thanks.
May I ask a question, please, about the Catholic Charity? Are they open? Are they functioning? Are they still open? I know it was on West Main. And different people have asked me about it, and I said, I don't know if they're open or not. Are they
for
open?
Catholic Charities.
It was my understanding that they were moving, but they haven't, they told us they would let us know when they were moving. So if it's closed, I wonder if they already moved and failed to let us know.
They've been closed for quite a long time. So I think before
Thank you for letting us know. We'll reach out to the agency contacts and find out and let you all know. But I know that they were in the process of moving, and they told us they would let us know when that would take place. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
Thank you. So we'll get into Catholic Charities. So they were rated a 3. I don't want to make this too long, but you can see the notes. It was based on, timeliness, reporting, and this was all, as mentioned, addressed in their monitoring letters. So we wanted to, stick to the facts and make sure that what we bring up, the agency was already made aware of. So also in fiscal year 2019-2020, the agency did have trouble sticking to their line items, and then they were only able to expend 1,000 towards emergency utility payment assistance. And then a little bit lower, just with the reporting was submitted late, and just like a late budget revision that was really close to the end of the fiscal year, which, it is preferred that happens earlier, so we're given enough time to make the necessary adjustments. And then they require, follow-up and technical assistance. I didn't have too much to add on top of what we already stated there, but I just wanted to mention that my experience with the agency is they are very responsive. So at least with me and my emails. And so if I do have to reach out or get clarification, they are pretty good at getting back to me. So that's really appreciated. And I just wanted to put that in there, that I've seen improvement, and I think it's important to mention that. So Alicia, did you have anything to add to Catholic Charities before we move on?
I just wanted to add that so far, well, we're in the second quarter of the current fiscal year, and we received an invoice, and we really didn't have many issues with that, and they have been pretty responsive. So I've seen an improvement with them, but our scores are just based off of our previous years and our monitoring reviews.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so everything is looking good so far for this current fiscal year with them. So we're happy about that. And then the only other agency that was rated a 3 or below was the Salvation Army, which is all the way at the bottom. And then this staff analysis for public service and capital will be included in your binders. So you'll have access to go through all of these. So with the Salvation Army, their score again was very similar based on late reporting. And then in 2020, 2021, the agency did not expend $208 of the grant allocation. And then all this was addressed in a monitoring letter. And then we also had a follow-up phone call with them after the monitoring letter. And they were very understanding and receptive with the feedback that was given to them. And they did express that, you know, where they fell short was due to the limited staff that they have. And that in turn affected their ability to manage the grant funding. So that's understandable. So Alicia, anything to add to Salvation Army?
No, I think you covered it. Let me see.
And then if anyone has any questions about any of that information, feel free to let us know. And then if not, we can move on to the capital staff analysis.
I don't have anything to add to Salvation Army, but I just wanted to add to number 4, which is the City of Sanria Recreation and Parks Department Mayor's Task Force. There's a note stating that staff is waiting on HUD for guidance. So we did reach out to our HUD rep, and she had stated that it would be eligible. And that's team 4. So that's Ryan, Yvonne, and Isaac. So just wanted to add that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Alicia. Thank you for catching that. Yes, we just received the guidance last week from our new HUD representative, and she said that the project is eligible. Our concern was that it was a city project being managed by the city, and so we just wanted to make sure there wasn't, public services are a bit different than our capital projects, and so it could be construed as like paying ourselves. So we just wanted to make sure that it was in line with the regulations, which it is. The only thing she did say was that one of the things that they put in their application was that they were going to use some of that money to buy gift cards to give to the teens. That is not an eligible expense. Gift cards are not eligible. So the money can be used to take them out to eat and pay for their meal, but it can't be used to buy a gift card to then give to the child or to the teen. So we did let the agent, those that will be managing this program know about that, but just wanted to let you know when you conduct your site visit that that was brought up, and that has been addressed, and that has been shared with Rec and Parks.
Thank you, Rosie. And so then it looks like we can move on to the capital staff analysis.
Let me bring that up here.
And Alicia did send out an email with all of these attachments as well. So you'll have them in several different places if you need to access them. And if you need us to resend them to you, we can as well.
So the capital projects, the ranking system's pretty much the same. We did add to number 3 that the agency has entered into executed contract amendments due to the inability to expend its full allocation during the contract period. I think we also added to number 2 where it says agencies projects have not been shovel ready in the past. So that was also a new one that we added. Same for the capital projects. While it might not be the same exact project that they're applying for, sometimes it's the same agency that's just applying for a different project. So if you'd like the monitoring review letters for those agencies, feel free to contact us and we can share that with you as well. So with the City of Santa Maria Public Works Department Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project, that's currently being funded for fiscal year 21-22. And as of, well, I had gave you the update for the current month, but construction has still not started and we're in the second quarter. So that's just the update on that one. There's also City of Santa Maria Recreation and Parks Department, the Rosalind Perlman Park Rehab Project. And the department currently has one CDBG funded project from the current year, which is Presker Park, and that has not started the bidding process or construction. The department also has a contract amendment extending the contract period for Chapel Plaza Rehab. The bid was recently awarded, but they're going out to bid with that one. So there's going to be a bit of a delay. For that one, for Recreation and Parks, their monitoring letter, we had to address their timeliness issues with breaking ground a little late. Rosie, do you want to add anything to the city projects? And it looks like I mixed up 1 and 2. The new should be for Perlman Park. The Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project is currently being funded for the fiscal year. So just to clarify.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. Just briefly, I did just kind of want to throw out some data for you just to kind of put it all in perspective. So currently, altogether, we have currently, and the reason I say current, okay, let me see if I can scale it back a little bit. So we just recently received a letter from HUD. Every year we get one around this time, reviewing last year and how we did. We did really well, no findings, really good. The only thing they reminded us about was our timeliness. And so what that is that every year in May, at the beginning of May, HUD runs a timeliness test. Now they do it across the board with every grantee across the nation. And they make sure you don't have more than 1.5 times the amount of money you get on an annual basis sitting in the bank. So what that means is we get approximately 1.6 million a year. So 1.5 times that would be about 2.4 million. And so in May, when they run the test, we just can't have more than that sitting in the bank, which means that throughout the year, we need to do a pretty good job of drawing down our funds. The only way we draw down funds is if we actually have activity, which means we're actually paying somebody to do something and the project's moving forward, and therefore then we can draw down. We can't draw down money if nothing's happened. So that being said, it was reminded that we were reminded that we need to meet our timeliness test. Now, just because HUD runs a report every May doesn't mean that they don't check it throughout the year, because what they also don't want is they don't want you to wait till April to do all your drawdowns. They want you to do them, every month or 2 months. That's just good practice. But when you don't have activity, when you don't have projects that are moving forward in a timely fashion, you're going to start having a lot of money just sitting there. And that's where we are right now. We are at 1.52 currently, as of today. We have well over 2.4 million sitting there. Now, out of that 2.4 million, over 1.6 million are for city projects. So 4 of our city projects are making up $1.6 million. And in the last 8 months, all we've drawn down is 37,000. No, I lie. We've drawn down 57,000 out of 1.6 million. So I'm just putting it out there because what it does seem, based on the project, the capital project check, the overview that we went over, is it appears that we can't really go out to bid with on one project until we finish this other project. And even though in the end they might all start construction at the same time, it does seem like one takes precedence over another because it all has to go through our certain departments. And we're limited as to who's able to manage all of that. So I just say this in full transparency and just providing you the numbers to just let you know where we are with the city projects and how much money they are taking up. And then we've got 2 additional city projects coming to us, which will add another amount of money to that 1.6 million that hasn't moved much in the last 8 months. Now, the goal, obviously, the hope is that we're going to see a lot of movement this year. It's only January, so a lot can happen by July when this new funding comes in. But it is something to keep in mind, and it is something that we need to be aware of. And I feel like this is something that you all need to know as well going into your site visits and your deliberations. So if you need copies of this information, if you need additional information on these numbers, I'm happy to provide them to you. But just wanted to let you know where we are with our capital projects. Any questions?
Rosie, Ron had a question asking, are they taking an effect that COVID is affecting projects?
By they, I am assuming you mean HUD. Is HUD taking into effect? Yes and no. Yes and no. They have allowed for, so they have allowed for some relaxed approaches to the regulation, but I saw that a lot more in 2020 and 2021. I'm not seeing much of that coming in 2022. I hope that answered the question.
Rosie? It's Rosalie. I
Yeah.
have a concern, and I brought it up many times in the past, that a concern with the city requesting monies from the block grant and not expending the monies that they request. And like you say, it's piling up, and they're coming out in for more requests, but they're not getting done one job. And, it doesn't seem like the one job is not getting done fast enough. And then they're asking for more money, and then everything is just kind of falling behind. And that's a concern I had, and I brought that up many times before. So hopefully, like you said, maybe we'll see something happen before July, that some of this money could be expended that the city has requested. Otherwise, if all this money's sitting there and the city's not going to do anything, can this money has to go back to HUD, or does it have to be directed to something else?
We do have some time. There's a lot of factors. So do we need to send the money back immediately? No, but at the same time, HUD does want to see progress. So if there's a project that's been sitting there for a couple of years and it hasn't made much progress, or you're not showing it, monetarily, it doesn't seem like you're doing much, they are going to question it. They're going to flag. It's called flagging it. They flag it. Now I haven't seen flags since the pandemic, but again, the impression we're getting as grantees is that all of the waivers that they call them waivers, like basically go kind of the relaxed version of the regulations, all those waivers are gone. We don't have any more waivers. So that's where we are. And again, a lot, and it's not a blame game at all. There was just it's a perfect storm. You had COVID, you had just construction all of a sudden booming. At the same time, you have costs just going sky high on the construction side. You have bids that you had engineers estimates that are now seem to be non-existent because now you've got like all the costs have just gone up. Tim's in the construction world. I'm sure he can tell you there's jobs coming out of their ears. It's crazy how busy everybody is. So it's just the perfect storm of things, just one thing after another, after another, after another. And this is where we are. Tim, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Rosie. The only thing that I'm thinking here is that all of the money that you're talking about, we didn't really issue any of that money. How long has the city council been taking effect of the capital funds? Is that 1 year or 2 years?
Yes, so that's a great question. You have a good point. That was last year's allocation, and I know that the committee didn't have a say in that. But that was a one-time deal, as we were told, and that was because of the COVID situation. But this funding cycle, the one we're in right now, that one is going to be on the Block Grants Advisory Committee to make the recommendations.
Okay. Well, it's certainly something to think about if they're not using the money.
And again, it's not, like I said, it's not anybody's fault. It's not like somebody's just sitting around, going, we'll get to it when we get to it. It's just a lot all happening at once. And there's just not enough. There's just not enough of everything. There's not enough, people to move this forward. There's not enough construction. There's just the construction of people available. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
What would we do if it was another recipient?
If it's another recipient, we advise that we allow them to finish their project and before proceeding to provide them with additional funding.
So are we going to try that avenue or because
that will be up to the committee?
Hmm.
That will be up to the committee to make that recommendation to the city council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions, or we can move on to Communify. So Communify, formerly Community Action Commission, during the 1920 fiscal year, the agency was unable to expend its full allocation and left a remaining balance of $55,000, which was about 70% of their original grant allocation. In the 2021 monitoring letter and visit, our staff had addressed the agency's timeliness and goal outcomes regarding the minor home repair program. The agency was unable to expend its fiscal year 22-21 allocation due to unforeseen obstacles related to the pandemic, and the contract was extended into the current fiscal year. During the current fiscal year, the agency has been unresponsive when clarification and or additional information is needed, resulting in extensive follow-up and technical assistance. I've seen an improvement with that, but just wanted to note that. So it will be addressed in their monitoring review letter as well. And I believe we also notified them and the executive director. Staff is also concerned about the agency continuing to provide this service because they have to contract out the majority of the services that they offer, which we've noticed that it increases the cost of the overall project. We've received invoices that well exceeds the estimated cost of work that was initially provided or that staff researched. So when they'll submit a client intake form, and the client intake form will have an estimate and a brief description of what type of project it is and how much work needs to be done. So it seems like the estimates that are being submitted are pretty high. And then when we receive the actual invoice, sometimes it's a lot more higher than that as well. And we emailed the agency to let them know of our concerns, so that they should be aware of that as well. Rosie and Tosh, would you like to add anything to Communify?
I just want to piggyback off what you said. So, we did for a while experience the agency being pretty unresponsive, and we'd have to send several emails to get a response, and it just kind of drug things out for like a couple weeks at times with like invoices and other issues. But I have noticed that they have improved, so I really appreciate that. It seems like we're getting responses a lot faster, and it just makes the overall communication and grant managing much more easier for everybody involved. So we do see an improvement, so I didn't want to leave off on a bad note, but so they're moving in the right direction, I think.
And with the last concern about the estimates being pretty high, and if they make any changes to the scope of work that they need to submit a revised intake. We also emailed the director, and she stated that the field staff will be aware and that she'll let them know. There's also capsule minor home repair, which we gave them a 3 during the fiscal year 2019-2020. The agency was unable to expend the allocated funding for the program, and we allowed them to carry over the funding into the fiscal year 2020-21. And so in that monitoring review letter and visit, we addressed the agency's timeliness and goal outcomes regarding the minor home repair program. So based on my experience this year, I feel like the agency's really improved, and they're very responsive when we require follow-up or when we need program updates. And it's been a while, I think, since we've received an invoice, but the last one we received was pretty good. Rosie or Tosh, would you like to add anything to capstone?
No, just I definitely agree with you. In my experience, it's been really easy to get information or updates and the status of different projects. And yeah, I have no complaints with Capslow, and they've been great when I've had to reach out. So that's appreciated.
And then we also have the Good Samaritan Shelter kitchen equipment upgrade. We haven't experienced any issues with Good Samaritan Shelter. They submit their reports and invoices in a timely manner. And I just added a note that they're open to phasing alternatives if funding is limited. And this is phase 2 of the project. So as you had seen in the capital project progress spreadsheet, we gave an update on their current project, and that's the flooring and restrooms for the overflow shelter. So it all kind of ties in together. And that's about it for the capital project spreadsheet. Does anyone have any questions? not, we can move on to the next.
And
agenda
again,
item.
we put this together to serve as one of the many different tools and information you can use to move forward with your site visits and overall your recommendations at deliberations. So obviously you're gonna meet with them, you're gonna look at their application, you're gonna be able to ask them questions. Feel free to bring up anything we've shared. This should not be any news to them. It should not be anything shocking, being that we try to be very transparent with our subrecipients about what's expected of them and then where they might have some room for improvement. So if you need any additional information, please let us know. But again, this is just one of the many tools that you can use when you ultimately make your recommendations to the city council. All right, so the next item is additional Zoom grants training on application review if needed. So how has everyone had a chance to check out Zoom grants? Anybody not had a chance to check out Zoom grants? Any questions? Is there anything you'd like us to go over again in Zoom grants? I know Alicia wanted to share a section, but other than that, please, we wanted to make sure that everybody felt comfortable navigating through this.
I just wanted to hop in real quick and thank Alicia for the drive and downloading all the applications. The Zoom grants is great, but it was really nice to just have them all in one place. So thank you. Appreciate it.
I just went in the binder that Alicia sent. Is that also an alternative? That's just the binder for the team leaders, right?
Yes, so we
The virtual
made a
binder.
couple. Yes, so the virtual
digital.
binder.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so the virtual binder was provided to everyone. If you guys have any issues, I'll bring up that email just so you can reference it. Or actually, I'll go over it on the next item, but the email that I had sent has a shared folder and you'll have access to all of the applications, different resources that will help you through the site visit procedures. And if you have any trouble opening it, just let me know. I also wanted to add in that previous email that I sent out, there's a read-only link. So you can click on that and it'll give you a list of all the applications and it'll be an easy access. So if you have trouble navigating through the actual Zoom grants website, you can also use that link.
Okay.
So what I just wanted to share that I think in the public service summary spreadsheets, I had added a note that if you want access to the Exhibit B quarterly reports, you can let us know and we'll give you access if you want to see the number of people that they served. I don't think I'm sharing my screen. So here's just an example of what the reports look like for us. So this is the current fiscal year 21-22. So we don't have a full year of numbers that are reported, but if you'd like access to the 2020-21 fiscal year, we can go ahead and provide that for you. And it gives you the demographics that they report for each quarter. And then also totals for the entire year. So if you request access, we'll give you the fiscal year 2020-21, and that will have the entire first through the fourth quarter. It'll give you the totals, what their goal was, and then if they exceeded or if they didn't meet their goal for that year. So that's just an option that I wanted to bring up. And if you'd like access, just reach out to our staff.
Oops. Alicia, thank you for the summary on the public service application. I noticed you added the unduplicate amount and the units amount of service for each applicant. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Mhm. No problem.
She worked really hard on that. I think she like spent like all of one of her Fridays just doing all of that, trying to get it all together. You'd be surprised how difficult it is to get that information from the agencies. It's wild.
And it seems like some of the agencies got caught up with it being the number of people served with CDBG funding and then it being overall, because in the Zoom grants question, it asks overall instead of the CDBG impact. So I think that threw a lot of them off, but I think I got the most accurate count.
It was well done. We appreciate it, all the information. And there's a lot of numbers and companies, and you guys do a lot of work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to site visit procedures and team report overview. So as part of your packet that Alicia sent out, there's a section on your guidance on conducting site visits. And I'm not going to read it all. You can definitely go through it and read it more in detail. But just a friendly reminder, remember that you are representing not just yourselves, but you're representing the City Council and the City of Santa Maria. So be respectful, refrain from asking philosophical or potentially controversial questions during the site visit. Be careful of not asking or making statements that might be perceived as subjective, unfair, biased, or that you're not impartial. So, for example, saying things like, "You are one of my favorite programs," or "I was involved in the formation of your organization." Those might be statements that might, whether they're positive or negative statements, those are statements that might lead people to believe that you are siding with the agency or not siding with the agency, depending on the comment. So just be careful and cognizant of those things. And even if you are familiar with an agency, because especially for those that have been on the committee for a while, chances are you're probably going to be visiting an agency you visited in the past. Maybe your approach should be that you're visiting them or learning about them for the first time. You might be dealing with a different executive director, different program coordinator. You might be dealing with a revamped version of the previous program that you conducted a site visit to or for. So just be aware of that. You have limited time, obviously, so focus your questions and specific proposals on the actual application and that program itself. For example, you're going to be going and visiting agencies that have multiple programs, but really you're there to discuss the program that they're applying for. So just remember to wear proper business attire and arrive on time. Now, obviously, it sounds like we're moving towards all virtual. If we're doing virtual, just make sure you log on a few minutes before and be just in case, you have any, that's of course, when you have audio issues or video issues, that it never fails. So logging on a few minutes before always helps, but that's it in a nutshell. Any questions on that? And I know Alicia wants to go over a few more things under this team report overview, but any questions on the site visit conduct? All right, thank you.
Okay, so I just have here a reminder about the binders. So if you're a team leader, we have a site visit binder ready and available for you. Whenever you're able to pick up, just give us a call or send us an email to make sure that we're here in our office. And I also just wanted to bring up the email that was sent out. So this one was sent out December 22nd, and I also copied it and included it in the previous email that was sent out with the agenda and all that information, just so you have quick access to it. But it just has all the binder attachments here. So that includes the application summaries, the staff analysis, funding priorities, criteria, and the contact list if you need to contact your team members. All that information is listed there. It'll also have a copy of the grant application, so PDF copies. The site visit question recommendations, so you can use that kind of as a guide to help you through your site visit. And the team report template, which the team reports will be due on Tuesday or by Tuesday, February 1st. And also earlier I had mentioned that there's a link to read only grant applications, and let me show you kind of how that works. Whoops. Just lost all my documents. One second. Okay, so here's the email. And so you should have access to the shared folder, and it'll take you to SharePoint. I believe it asks you for a code. It may not, but if you don't receive the code, maybe check your junk email, but this will give you access to the site visit binder. So. And that's where all the documents will be stored. So I also included last year's team reports if you'd like to reference it. All the fiscal year 22-23 grant applications and all the other site visit attachments that were referenced. And then the read only link that I had mentioned is here. So it has just a quick access to all the applications. And all you do is click there and it takes you right to the application. Tim?
So it asks for your email and it asks for a password on the SharePoint.
Oh, it asks for a password, or does it ask for a security code?
No, it's asking for a password. First it asks for my email and then it asks for my password.
Oh.
I haven't been.
Shouldn't we have- Has anyone else had any issues trying to access the shared folder?
It just asked for my email. It didn't ask for a password. I was able to access it.
Mine asked for a security code.
Oh, okay. And were you able to access it once you got the code?
I had to go.
'Cause I think
I did, but then it asked for my password, so I forgot my password, so I had to change my password.
oh, so maybe you have to create a
Yeah.
password.
Yeah, I had to create a new password.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll try and see what other option there is for Tim, or if anyone else has had issues.
I wonder if we could ask IT and see if there's a way to share it without requiring a password.
Yeah, I think that's just like an automated to make sure like the user is an actual person, but I wasn't able to change any settings.
Good job, Alicia.
Thank you. So I think that's all I have to cover with the email. Does anyone have any questions on the site visit binder attachments? And if you guys have any issues accessing the shared folder, just feel free to email me and we'll try and find another option for that. So we'll move on to overview of upcoming deliberation process.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully I do it as nicely as Alicia. Yay, I think you can see it, right? Can you see it? It's an agenda.
Too small.
Yes.
Okay, so this is last year's agenda. We
That's better.
haven't put together this year's, but I do want to just kind of give you an idea of what to expect. So last year we did it virtually. It was right around the time, we were in the middle of the pandemic. So we did it virtually. And so here you can see what we did was we did an overview of the deliberations process. So we just explained the process in a public setting so that everybody knew what to expect. Then we provided an overview of the city's priorities. And then we had the committee announce its conflicts of interest. And then we implemented segmentation if necessary. So what that means is if you have a conflict of interest where you need to recuse yourself from making any decisions on or recommendations, you will announce it, and then we will explain what will happen when that agency is brought up. Based on your information that you've provided to me about your conflicts, it does not appear we'll have that issue this year. But if anything's changed since the last time we spoke and I asked you to share your conflicts of interest, please let me know, because that's very important. And then then the committee shares its site visit team reports. So the teams of 3 will share with the rest of the committee its report. And then we'll proceed with questions and answers to our potential subrecipients. So after we do that, then we open it up for public comment, where we allow for the agencies to speak for 3 minutes if they choose to, and provide additional information. That's what we did last year. So a question for you is, the reason we moved the public comment period at the end was because the first year we did this in 2020, we found that that took up so much of the time that then when it came down to the rest of the meat and potatoes, we were already like an hour and a half in. So this way we can get all, the what everybody's there for, really, we can get that out of the way. And then at the end, we can do public comment. And then at that time, if an agency chooses to speak in more detail about its agency, they can do that, knowing that all of the questions that the committee might have had for them have already been answered. So what are your thoughts on that layout?
Alicia, didn't last year that go pretty quick, that we really didn't get near as many comments?
No, it went pretty quick. I don't know if it was because it was well, I think 2 things. Once the agencies were able to answer any questions that the committee had, then they didn't really feel like they had anything else to share because everything's already been explained. And I think too, it was a virtual setting, and everything seemed to go a lot quicker in a virtual setting.
Yeah, I think that accounts for probably why it went so quick. And I think if it's the same, we do it the same way, I think it'll probably be a similar outcome. So yeah, that should work out great.
Great. So at this February 15th meeting, we are not going to discuss who gets what and how much. That is at the February 17th meeting. So the 15th meeting is just to share the information that the committee has to share with the rest of the committee members. So the site visit teams share information with each other, and then additional questions and answers are made, and hopefully the agency's there to answer any additional questions that the committee members have. And then it's not until the 17th that the committee comes back and then makes the recommendations. Now on the 17th, the public is not allowed to speak. They're allowed to make public comment in the sense of if there's anything that they'd like to share that's not related to the deliberations, but they're not allowed to make additional comments or provide additional information on the application or their program, because they've already had several opportunities to do that, whether it's in the application, in the site visit, and also at the first deliberation. So just wanted to.
Yeah, so
clarify
that if everyone can just remember that if you do have questions regarding other applicants for other agencies that you did not do a site visit with, to have your questions ready for the other committee members who did, or for the agency itself at the 15th meeting, because that's going to be your time to ask questions then. Please don't have new questions come the 17th, because that's when we're trying to shake it out. And it can cause a lot of problems if we have last minute questions that arise on the 17th, and then the agency is sitting behind us or sitting virtually, in this case, chomping at the bit to answer your questions, and the time's already passed to where you should have asked it 2 days prior. So keep that in mind. And if that happens, we'll have to, I don't know, we'll have to strike it, or whatever means we have to prevent those questions from even being asked at that time, because that should be just getting into the meat and bones of it. But that would be helpful if everyone could just do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. That's a really good point. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna add about, I had just thought of it after that discussion, but last year we gave all the committee members an option to join like a different team site visit because they were all virtual, if you wanted to sit in on them. So I don't know if we want to make that an option. If there's an agency that you would really like to sit on their site visit, maybe we can send the link. I don't know how, if it's virtual, then anyone can really join, even if you want to observe or have your own questions that you'd like to ask them, or you can also send your questions to the site visit team. That's an option.
That's a great option. A great idea.
So I think we had did that last year, but what I had did was I had added links to the site visit team schedule, which is still a draft, but I guess you can always just join there if you guys don't let us know.
Yeah, I would encourage anybody, if you're curious about one of the applicants, or if maybe like if you're new to the committee, or if you've been on the committee a while and you just haven't cycled through one of the previous applicants for a site visit, might be helpful just to sit in, especially if you've had questions on an agency in the past. And sorry, whoever I cut off, but go ahead and.
No, that's a great reminder, Alicia. Yeah, I now remember you did that last year and it worked out really well. So yeah, just keep in mind that the site visit schedules you have are draft, because obviously with us slowly moving towards all virtual, it's just kind of been changing every day. But now unless we're told to leave one as an in-person site visit, we're going to move all of them to virtual. So we'll make those changes and then send you the final site visit list in a couple days. But the other thing I wanted to remind you is that between your site visit and the deliberations, there might be a question that you come up with and you're like, oh no, I should have asked that. I forgot to ask them about X, Y, or Z. That's okay. Let us know what that question is, and we'll be happy to reach out to the agency and get the information that you need or want and provide it back to you. We don't expect you to email them from your personal account. We try to be the middleman so that it keeps you, in essence, protected. We don't give them your phone number. We don't give them your email address. Everything goes through us. So if they need to reach out to, for example, many times too, what happens is you'll ask a question at a site visit and maybe they don't have the answer. And so they'll say, can we just get back to you on that? Just tell them to email us and we will make sure you get that information. So use us. Don't feel bad about giving them our phone number, our email address. They should have it. And I'm sure they already have it. But just in case, just say, yeah, just email it to Alicia, email it to Rosie, email it to Tash, and we'll get it. That way you're not, now they're, if you give them your email address or your phone number, now they're going to constantly be calling you and giving you updates and information. And so we just try to protect you as much as possible. And then again, like I said, if anything comes up between the site visit and the deliberations, which often happens, we'll be happy to get that additional information to you or get your message to the agency. So don't feel like the site visit is your only chance to ask questions, or you have to wait till deliberations to ask additional questions. If you have any questions along the way, we can definitely facilitate getting you the answers that you need. And even between, if there is a question you have that is between the 15th of February and the 17th, we can definitely get you that information. But like Ryan said, once we're at that setting on the 17th, if we allow one agency to speak, then we basically have to let everybody do it. And so we're just trying to be fair across the board, and we make it very clear that, your chance is the 15th. And then the 17th, it's strictly business for the Block Grants Advisory Committee, but we allow the public to listen in because, again, we're trying to be transparent. But that's the only reason we allow the public, is so that they can listen in and see the process and see the Block Grants Advisory Committee in action. So, which is it's not common for that to happen. Usually most CDBG funded projects are funded behind closed doors, but we try to be very transparent, and it's worked out really well. So that's something that I have to say we've never gotten in trouble for. We've actually been praised for it. So, well, if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? All right. Reports from committee members. We're at number 8.
Well, before you go, I have one question, Rosie. I noticed on the cover sheet, for example, with Catholic Charity, under the project contact person, it doesn't give the local address where Catholic Charity is located. The only address we have is what they have in Los Angeles. So I was just wondering if we can, before we meet, could we get their address information? with the Catholic Charity, and also I know Salvation Army's on West Cook Street, but it seems like on the face sheet or the cover sheet under the project contact person should have the local address if they're agency that is regional or out of county.
Thank you. Yeah, I went ahead and reached out to Ruth and Yolanda at Catholic Charities to find out what their address is and what their operating hours are. So I'll get back to you all on that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Do we have a maximum amount one agency can receive in the year? I thought somewhere in our rules there was something like that. What I'm
Yes.
talking about is Catholic Charities. I mean, pardon me, but the shelter has two community projects.
So we recently changed that. We went to the committee approved it, and then it went to the city council for final approval.
Okay.
But we recently changed that so that it's now the program cannot receive more than 10% of the allocation. So not the agency. So it's the program. But
Okay, I
no
couldn't remember on that.
one agency can have more than 2 programs funded.
Okay.
That's a good question, though. And you know what? Now that I think about it, you emailed me, didn't you, about that?
Yeah, I did. And I didn't know if you got it because I did it when I was out in the desert, and I didn't know if you ever got it or not. So that's okay.
I did. And I just think I'm like, oh, I didn't meet. Sorry about that. But I think, yeah, I think you just sent it like last Thursday or Friday.
Yeah,
like
it was.
Yeah. Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. No problem.
Great question, though. I'm glad you brought.
All right, so if there are no other reports from committee members, Rosie, I guess if you want to just, do we need to go over the proposed agenda items for next meeting? Because we're going to keep it lean, right?
Yeah, during the next meeting, it's all deliberations. Yeah, we won't bring up the attendance and site visits and all that until March. And again, that won't affect whatever's decided. If anything changes, won't occur until the next year.
Well, thank you. Thanks everyone for hanging in. It's a long meeting, but hopefully next month's meeting won't be so bad. The last one we did went really well and was fairly quick and painless compared to previous years. So hopefully we can keep on track. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at 6:55.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Let us know if you need anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.